Here are 10 more easy tricks for beginners. First up is the bomb drop. All this trick really entails is grabbing your board, jumping off something, and landing back on your board. Physically, this trick is extremely easy. All it takes is a little bit of confidence. And the good news is you can do this trick anywhere from jumping off the ground to off the top of a huge building. All you have to do is get confident jumping off of whatever you want to do the bomb drop off of. You can also practice by putting your board at the bottom and jumping off and landing on your board. And then you just put the two together by putting your board in your hand, jumping off and throwing it under your feet. If you're afraid of slipping out, you can practice onto grass, then slowly work your way up on the ground, off a curb, and then whatever else you want to do. Trick number 2, the Powerslide. This is a fun little thing to do when you're cruising at fast speeds and you either want to stop, slow down, or change your stance. All that this trick requires is a good amount of speed, a turning of the board with your feet, and making sure you lean back enough. Usually you use your back foot to push the tail and turn the board 90 degrees, but this movement may be a little hard if you're a beginner. So a little trick to get into these a little easier is to practice pivots on your front truck, and then when you're comfortable with that, try letting off the weight of your back foot just enough that your wheels won't even come up, but you can turn the board 90 degrees, and then just lean back and keep your feet pushed in front of you. Leaning back and speed are the key things for this trick, and if you have too little of either one of those, you'll probably end up stopping and falling forward. Once you get comfortable with the front foot way of this, you can try doing the real way, which is using your back foot, and you end up with a pretty stylish little maneuver. Up next, we have the wall bounce. This trick is borderline circus trick, but if you pull it off right, you can actually make it look pretty good. Basically, you roll straight up to a wall, kick the board out and let it hit the wall, and then bounce off and jump back on it. This is a good one because all you really need to know is this, which is just kicking the board out in front of you. Just keep in mind that when all 4 wheels hit a flat surface evenly, it should bounce up pretty straight. Otherwise, if it's crooked, the board will end up flipping. So just practice kicking your board out a few times, and then roll up and kick it straight at a wall. You want to keep your front foot up in the air so that when the board bounces off, you can push your foot onto it and jump off your back foot and land back on the board. Number 4 is the poor man's nose stall, aka the fake nose stall. This is basically just a little cheater way to get into a nose stall. The good thing is you don't have to ollie, and all you really have to do is know how to lean back on your trucks and then forward on your nose. Roll up to your obstacle with medium speed, not too fast, or you're going to end up falling forward. Make sure your feet are spread so that your back foot is on the tail and your front foot is on the nose. Then you just lift up your front wheel slightly, and once your nose hits the top of the obstacle, lean forward onto it. From there, you can stall as long as you want, and then it's just a little hop backwards in order to get off. Kinda lame, but pretty easy. Number 5 is the good old-fashioned manual. This is definitely a trick you should learn, as it's a building block for a lot of other flip in, flip out, ollie up, whatever you want to do kind of variations. The good thing about a manual is you can practice it pretty much anywhere as long as you have some ground. Now I'm showing regular manuals and nose manuals in this because just like kickflips and heel flips, some people are just better at one or the other. I'm personally a nose manual person and I'm not really good at regular manuals, so just try either one out and see which one works for you. You can practice standing still and especially practice your balance by holding onto something while you do it. And then little by little you can work your way up with how much distance you go. Just remember that with a manual, if you lean too far back, you're going to end up scraping your tail and killing your board pretty fast. And with a nose manual, if you lean too far forward, you run the risk of falling forward onto your face. You should definitely learn these because they are a prerequisite for a few of the tricks coming up. So once you have your manuals down pretty well, it's time to move on to the Firecracker. Besides popping your board and doing a trick down them, this is probably one of the coolest ways to get down a stair set. Essentially all you're doing is leaning back into a slight manual and letting your tail hit the stairs on the way down. You'll know you're doing it right if you get that trademark Firecracker sound. This can definitely be a scary trick, but skill-wise it's actually pretty easy. Once you're good at manuals, you can practice taking them off a curb. Don't go too fast and you can just let your tail kind of hit the curb. From there you can bring it up to a 2-stair and then a 3-stair, 4-stair, and whatever you want to do. Just make sure that when you hit the stairs, you're going straight off of them. If you go at an angle or if you dip your nose, you're going to probably fall forward. I would definitely suggest getting used to these on a curb or a 2-stair before taking them off anything bigger. Number 7, the backside 180 revert. Yes, this is kind of like a Powerslide, except you don't actually have to hold it and slide. It's just a quick 180. This is another good one to throw down while you're cruising around if you want to switch stance, and if you're not quite at that point of popping a backside 180. It's a very similar motion to a backside 180, except obviously you're not popping the board. You should still focus on swinging your shoulders backside, but the main part that's going to get the board to turn around is having your foot slightly in that toe side pocket in the back. Then when you go to turn your body backside, all you do is scoop with your back foot and let off the weight a tiny bit with your front foot, and then push the back wheels through until you've completed your 180. This is one of the few tricks that's kind of hard to practice while standing still, but you can do it while rolling really slowly. Just make sure that your back foot is in the right spot and you know how to swing your shoulders around. I think you can even practice this while standing with one foot, but I think it might actually be harder. Just find some good slippery blacktop and I think you should be fine. Next up is the 50-50 stand. Not to be confused with the 50-50 grind. Now there are some really cool freestyle ways to get into this stand, but I'm going to keep this really basic by just showing you how to get right into the stand and then land it. This trick involves either holding your nose or your front truck with one of your hands and then putting your back foot on the top of the other truck. Step off the ground with your front foot and make sure that you can balance. And then it just takes a little hop and a flick of the wrist and you land back on the grip tape. There are some fun variations you can do with this, like the saran wrap with your front leg around the nose. Or you can just keep it basic and get into the stand, flip the board, and land back on it. Your hand might feel like it's in an awkward position, but just get used to doing that flip over with your wrist. You can get into this position without actually having to land it and just practice your balance first, and then you can add the second part afterwards. You may think this is a little lame, but if you get good enough at them, you can add stuff into and out of them, and you'll probably be the next Rodney Mullen. Trick number 9 is the Kickturn. So here's where those manual skills that you learned earlier come into handy. You can do kickturns just by pivoting on your back truck, and really it can be anything from a 180 to a 1080 or beyond. This just takes a little push and then some balance. You can do these frontside or backside. I prefer frontside. And when you do them, you just slightly lift your front wheels up and kind of lean in and carve to whatever direction you're going. And mainly keep your weight on your back foot. And keep your head slightly facing the direction that you're spinning, just so you're not blindly turning. These tricks aren't much on their own, but if you learn how to do them well, you'll be way better at cornering and turning really fast. Just remember, don't go too fast or you'll probably slip out. Luckily, these can actually be easier to balance than manuals because of all that conservation of angular momentum stuff. I mean, you're pretty much a ballerina. Last but not least, we're going to end this one the same way we did the first video, by showing you a cool way of picking up your board. I don't really know if there's a name for this, I just call it the kick up pickup because that's kind of what you're doing. This is a pretty stylish way of picking up your board, where you pop down on the tail, let the board bounce up, and then put your foot underneath it and kick it up into your hands. This might seem a little daunting at first, but it's actually kind of easy because you can practice while just standing still. You just pop down on the tail with your back foot, and make sure you're popping straight down so that the board doesn't fly away all crazy like. But if you do it right, the board should pop straight up, and in that second, when there's that little space underneath the board, you push your foot underneath there, and then push the board up with your toes. From there, all you have to do is make sure it doesn't hit you in the face and catch it. This isn't as fast or sleek as the nose pickup from the first video, but it's not without its charm. Practice this one enough until you've got it good, and you'll be able to pick up your board after doing all those easy tricks and walk away in style. And there you go, 10 more easy alternative tricks for beginners. So I want to reiterate a point that I made in the end of the first 10 easy tricks video. Nothing's going to replace your basics with your ollies and kickflips. Those are still tricks that you have to learn. The point of this video is just to show you that there are a few other avenues to take before you get into those crazy tricks. And I think the main benefit of that is to build up your confidence both mentally and physically, so that when you are ready to move on, you'll have a nice foundation to build upon. Besides all that, make sure that if you haven't seen it, you go check out the part 1 of these 10 easy beginner tricks. And thank you for watching, and you can like and subscribe if you want.